The day of the dance arrived. Every parent in town was ready for the event to be over because the teen hormones were taking over the city, and it was exhausting keeping up with all the emotions linked to that day. Juliet was still nowhere to be found. Tatiana would typically assume she was playing a comedy gig somewhere. However, her mom didn't even text her to have a good time tonight or anything. This is, in itself, very unlike her. Also, she needed comfort from the recent events in her life that only her mother could provide. Thankfully, it only took 2 days for Tatiana to sulk about the news of her half-sister and what she did to her father. She forced herself to move on and pushed herself to get ready for tonight's event. She was happy to spend the evening with her friends. The thought of normalcy tonight cheered her up. The idea of seeing Enrique made her heart bloom with a fragrance of bliss. Ugh, how she wanted to be accompanied by Enrique instead of Mortimer. She hated that she felt that way, but she was being perfectly honest with herself. Her accessories were the final piece to completing her ensemble, her mother's prized earrings and a little lip gloss to finish the look. With one last look at herself in the mirror, she ensured everything was in place.
This is as good as it's gonna get, but it will do.
Enrique was not surprisingly the first one to arrive at her house. He was the picture of perfection in his contemporary attire. He seemed a bit anxious and distracted before stepping into her home. As soon as he walked inside and focused his eyes on her, it was as if he was cured of all tension. His eyes fixed on her made her blush, which in turn made him smile profoundly.
I did not think you could be more beautiful, Tati. But here you are, proving me wrong again.
His Freudian slip did not fall on deaf ears. She wondered what he meant by the word again. And just as she was going to ask him, he stepped closer into her personal space, eyes misty, voice trembling.
I have to tell you something, querida. Something important.
His urgency was palpable, his breath sweeping her face like a feather. Yet he was interrupted by another knock at the door.
Please, Tatiana.
Ricky, you want me to tell Bella and Mort we aren't going tonight? You seem so distraught.
Her concern was evident, and canceling the dance would not even faze her. This was one of the many reasons Ricky admired Tatiana. He hesitated to answer. He wanted to say, "Yes, let's cancel. Let's go to the lighthouse instead. There's so much I need to tell you. So many truths untold. So much." Instead, his verbal response betrayed his tormented eyes.
No, please. Let us enjoy this evening together. What I have to say can wait, querida.
He did his customary sweeping of her hair behind her ears, whilst his thumb traced her lovely face. He wasn't making her opening the door very easy, but somehow she managed. Bella and Mort had been standing outside for at least 10 minutes discussing something that looked equally as enthralling as what was happening inside with Ricky and Tati. They seemed flustered as they entered, but each of them hugged or shook hands, and the excitement for the dance continued. They took many pictures of themselves in varying poses for her scrapbook. When it was Bella, Tati, and Enrique's turn to take a picture together, Enrique clutched Tati's hand behind their backs and wished they didn't have to let go. At the dance hall, the students arrived as if it were the Grammys. The photographer had their work cut out for them because the kids were demanding. One by one, they filled the hall. The Queen Bees, made up of Sophia, Eliza, Dina, Nina, and Nancy, and their dates, Charlie Briggins, Bob Pancakes, Michael Batchelor, Don Lothario, and Jeffrey. Other miscellaneous teens continued arriving, including the chaperones of the evening, Mrs. Pancakes, Bob's mom, and Mr. Landgrab. For a split second, Tatiana considered confronting Eliza. Ask her why she never told her about their connection, the fact that they were sisters. However, that would compromise her. It would prove she saw Freddie, that they talked. It would prove her guilt. Mortimer disrupted her contemplative state to ask for a dance, and Tatiana had no recourse but to accept. He had been wonderful to her all night, and quite honestly, she felt like she owed Mort a dance at the very least for what she did to his brother after all.
You are the most beautiful girl in the entire hall, Tati.
Tatiana blushed and thanked him for his kindness.
I just want to thank you.
Good grief, Mort, what for?
You really helped me out through my darkest days. You listened. You were always there for me. It means so much to me. More than words can say.
Gosh, Mort, I really wish you wouldn't thank me.
Her inward dialogue took over, and especially if you knew your brother was in my storage chest. She continued outwardly.
I'm glad for your friendship too.
And she meant that, sincerely. Mort was a class act, and she was better to have known him and befriended him.
About that.
Just as Mortimer was about to get deeper with his conversation, Sophia bumped into Tatiana whilst they were dancing. They held onto each other as not to fall or trip, but when Tatiana touched Sophia's flesh, she was sent spiraling into a funnel of visions. These visions were not her normal everyday photo montage that she was used to. Those visions were void of sound and color. This vision was crystal clear, vivid, and full of sensory overload.
Holy cow plants. Did I just teleport to the Garden of Life?